I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make chocolate mint cookies. Very similar to another cookie that comes out in the springtime. And first up, in this bowl, I have 1 3/4 cup of my gluten-free flour mix, a 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So just mix this together. You could sift your cocoa powder if you feel like it's extra lumpy, but this is okay. So now that this is all mixed in, we're just going to set this aside over here. And in this bowl, as always with my recipes, I'll put the equivalents to sugar in the description box with the recipe if you don't want to use honey. But 1/3 cup of honey. I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter. It's not hot, but it is melted. Same whisk, and just whisk this around. So once you have your honey and your butter mixed in pretty good, we're going to add in 1 egg. And just mix this till it's all combined as well. A 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And just keep mixing. It's not very much batter for this big bowl, but that's all right. So this is it for the wet ingredients. So now I'm going to switch to a spatula and all in one. And just start mixing this around. You're going to notice that this is actually a really dry dough, but just keep stirring, it will come together. Okay, so once your dough is all formed, you could do this in a stand mixer, but it's such a small amount, it's just easier with a spatula. So set this aside. I'm going to get some parchment paper. So 2 pieces of parchment paper, 1 for the bottom and 1 for the top. And just plop out your dough. All right, and top layer. And I'm just going to flatten it out. And then we're going to roll this, however thick you want, but they take about 25 to 30 minutes in the oven. So the thinner they are, the faster they'll cook. But it also depends on how big of a cookie you want too. And just move the parchment paper around as you need. And the nice thing about parchment paper is you can even just flip over the entire thing. Okay, so peel off your parchment paper. And I know traditionally these cookies are round, but today we're going for square. And again, however big you want. And so just get as many as you can out of your dough. Okay, so I have 2 cookie sheets here, jelly roll pans, lined with parchment paper and little spatula. And just pick these up and put them on your cookie sheet. So my first pan is ready to go in the oven. I've got the oven preheated to 325, and I'm going to check this at about 25 minutes and see what we've got. They will get a little crisper when they cool, but first pan is going in the oven, and then I'm going to re-roll the rest of this until I get all the cookies. And just use the parchment paper to help get all of your dough back together again. And keep going. If you notice that your dough is getting too warm, and not very easy to handle. You can always just stick it in the fridge for a minute. Depends on the weather and how hot your kitchen is. So this first pan of cookies went in the oven for about 17 minutes. I'm gonna put in this second pan and let these cool off on this wire rack here. Don't really even need a spatula. And what you're looking for is, you want them to be firm, and they are still hot, so be careful with them, but you just want them to be firm on top, and they will crisp up a little bit more as they cool off. And we'll just go another 17 minutes and let the other pan cook. While that last pan finishes up in the oven, just a few more minutes, I'm going to show you the topping. I have, or the coating rather, for the cookies. Just shy of 1 cup of dark chocolate chips. And you could probably use semi-sweet if you want to, but I like the dark chocolate. And what I've got over here is I have a little bit of a water bath going on. Almost simmering water with a bowl on top. So I'm going to put in these chocolate chips. I'll bring you in closer for a look. And you might have been wondering, where is the mint? And it's right here. But first, just shy of 1 cup of dark chocolate chips and about a tablespoon or so of coconut oil. And put that in there. And then I have 1 teaspoon of peppermint extract into there. And you could actually, instead of the vanilla, you could, if you want an extra minty cookie, you could put mint in the cookie and omit the vanilla. But I like the vanilla in the chocolate. And these are feeling nice and firm, so I'm gonna transfer all of these to the cooling rack. And you could have done them both in the oven at the same time, but while I was re-rolling, it was easier for me just to cook one and keep rolling for the other ones. And then I'm gonna leave my cookie sheets here for when they're cooled off enough. I won't use this one yet, but this one here that is cool, it already has the parchment paper in it. And so we're just gonna reuse this and the parchment paper after we dip these in chocolate and just put them on here. And you don't have to get more parchment paper or another cookie sheet. You're already good to go. So I'm gonna bring all this over here and let this get melted, and I'll bring you in closer for a look. So here's our dark chocolate, coconut oil, and the peppermint extract. And it's just barely coming up to a simmer. And you don't want it to boil, and you don't want your bowl to touch the water in the pan. And so I think it's called a bain-marie. I probably didn't say that right either, but just stir this around till it's melted. So it's mostly melted. You can see there's still a little bit of chunks in there, but I'm actually going to turn off the water, and this will kind of trap in any heat, and it will keep it warm. And so that residual heat will just melt that the rest of the way. You could do this in a microwave if you wanted to. So now that that's looking really good, and that coconut oil in there is going to help it give a little bit of a hard shell after it hardens and dries and cools off. So now that our chocolate is all melted, and all you do is you just take your cooled off cookie, plop it in your chocolate, and 2 of the scariest looking forks you might have ever seen, and just toss it around in there, and then let the excess drip back into the pan. Right over here, we're going to transfer this over to the cookie sheet. So cookie in the chocolate, coat it around, let the excess drain off again, and back onto this cookie sheet. And we'll just keep going with the rest of these. Okay, that's the last cookie. And if you notice that your cookies are really thin and you get more cookies, you might want to make some more chocolate coating. Or if your cookies are thicker, you might have extra. So it's forgivable. Just, you know, use your best judgment on how much chocolate topping you might need. So these are looking really good. You can see they're really shiny. So once your cookies are all coated in chocolate, you can just stick them in the fridge and they will harden up. And you should keep them in the fridge, like most gluten-free things that you want to keep in the fridge anyways. And so with that coconut oil in the topping, you know, made a nice firm topping. Pretty good. If you do a thicker cookie, if you roll them out thicker, they won't be as crunchy, but a little bit too thin, you might be too crispy, but pretty delicious. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and we'll see you on the next one.